everybody. Welcome to Immigrant Stories That You Need to Hear Now, H&B's 5th annual storytelling show. We're all so glad that you're here tonight, not only for entertainment, but to be part of something meaningful and to remind all of us that most of us, whether it was last year or 300 years ago, we all have an immigrant story in our family, which is so important to remember right now as we are currently not welcoming any refugees into our country. Homes Not Borders' mission is to help the refugee and forced migrant population in the DC area thrive and feel at home. And tonight's show is but one expression of that mission through the 6 stories that you're going to hear tonight. Guiding us through this journey is tonight's host, Alexandra Petri. You probably know Alexandra from her sharp, witty, and often delightfully absurd humor writing. She currently writes a mostly humor column for The Atlantic and previously did so for The Washington Post. Her work has also appeared in McSweeney's and the New Yorker's Daily Shouts and Murmurs. And she's the author of 3 books. The most recent, Alexandra Petri's U.S. History, Important American Documents I Made Up, recently won the Thurber Prize for American Humor. But beyond her very impressive bio, I've come to know Alexandra a bit over the past couple months as we prepare for the show. She is warm, funny, and genuinely kind, the kind of person that makes you feel instantly at ease. It's easy to see why she's so good at telling and writing stories because she listens deeply and celebrates every voice that she encounters. So please, join me in welcoming a brilliant writer, generous spirit, and tonight's host, Alexandra Petri.
Oh, thank you so much, Amy. And thank you to everyone for being here tonight. I feel like I really needed this evening, just as Amy was saying. I think it's an honor whenever people want to come to this country, and it's nice to be in a room full of people who remember that and want to, and want to gather and listen to stories. And tonight I am a little sad that the very hungry caterpillar was not here because my 3-year-old knew that I was going where the very hungry caterpillar was, and that was by far the thing she was most excited about this evening. I'm gonna have to fake an autograph or at least eat several pies and say that he helped. But tonight we're going to hear stories about people diving feet first into totally new experiences, new countries, new places, and even new languages. And for me, the language piece, all of it's impressive, but the language piece is what strikes me the most, because I finally have come to terms with the fact that I don't speak French as well as I think I do. And it's taken decades. I know the languages I putatively speak. I studied ancient Greek, and I know I don't speak that. Nobody speaks ancient Greek. What am I going to do, go to Athens and ask for a bus by saying, "Lo, when do the chariots depart?" But French, I thought that I spoke. I felt confident. I studied it all through école, and I went to the bibliothèque so often for étudier. And yet, whenever I did speak it, something went wrong. And for years I was convinced I was not the problem. I was in France, in a restaurant in France, and I thought they do things very strangely here, because I looked at the menu and I confidently ordered something that clearly to me was veal. And they brought a brain. And then not only did they bring me this strange thing that I was not conscious of having ordered, they sent a waiter to bully me. And the waiter would come over and say, "Do you have any friends?" And I would say, "No," because I was eating alone. And then the waiter would leave. And then she'd come back and she'd say, "Are your friends with you?" And I would say, "No." And I thought, what a strange way to run a country. You have restaurants where you give people brains instead of the food they ordered, and then you come and insult them for not having friends. And I'm like, I need to leave. I don't know how to get out of here. Next time she comes and asks me if I have friends, I'm going to say something different. And so she comes in again and says, "Do you have friends?" And I said, "Yes." And immediately she said, "Ah, good," and took the plate. Almost as if she'd been asking a different question. this whole time. But somehow that wasn't what got through to me about my not understanding French. What did it was, so I used to write for the Washington Post, and I was in 2016 in Cleveland covering the Republican National Convention. And suddenly we got an email to the whole newsroom that said, does anyone speak French? We need a French speaker. And I said, moi. Je parle français. And they said, good, because there's a French TV news crew here that wants to interview someone in French about how the election is going. And I said, wonderful. I think I said merveilleux. And so they get me in front of the camera. And the first question they asked, they said, now, what are Americans saying about the election? And I said, they're saying, aïe, qu'est-ce qui se passe? Which is French for, aïe, what is happening? I think. And they sort of looked at me, and then they said, now, could you elaborate? And I thought, wonderful, I'm going to enter the realm of metaphor, because I had just read an article about a wild boar that came out of the ocean. And I thought, this is a metaphor everyone will be able to access, and I'm certain I can say in French. And so what I said was, there's like, describe the Republican frontrunner, and I said, il est comme le grand chien qui vient de la mer, which, for those who don't speak French, is he is like the big dog which comes from the sea. I think it would have been confusing even had I correctly said wild boar, but I did not. And at that point they looked at me and said, can you just say the following sentence into the camera? And they said a sentence for me in French, which I believe was, it is possible that he may win the election, and I said that sentence. And then we wrapped, and they said, they turned off the camera, they said, where did you learn to speak French? And I was like, oh, Madame Spittler. And then that was when it hit me that perhaps it was not all of France that was the problem, not the restaurants and their TV news crews. Maybe, en effet, the problem, it's me. Or, as the French would say, c'est moi. So yeah, if anyone wants to practice French with me, I would love that, because I want to improve, but I don't know how to say the word improve. But speaking of improvements, we have another storyteller for you, our first of the evening. So please get excited to listen to Amal Aboudoud.
I come from Iraq to United States 2016 with my family. When I come, I was 35 years old. I spent all 35 years at home. When I come to United States, I was zero English. At my case, they told me, Mom, what you doing here? We don't have family, we don't have a friend. We scared Mom. And I told inside in myself, I'm scared too. But I hug my kids, I say, no worry, Mom, we will be fine. The thing started too hard. The first step I did, I called my case worker. I'm asking him to find volunteer for me. My case worker says, okay, Amal, call me one time a week to remind me. I called my case worker 2 times, sometimes 3 times a week to remind him. Because this time, I really need help. After a few weeks, my case worker says, Amal, I have a good news. We have volunteer for you, her name Annie. I was very, very lucky to have her. She's come to my home. She started teaching me English. The first step she did, she put labels, all the stuff in my home, like chairs, table, or something in her language, in my language too. I remember what this code, what this name. And she took me outside to explain to me about America. She's took my kids to school. She find family doctor for me. She's teach me how to support myself and my family. Annie, she make me different person. One day, someone from my mosque called me, say, Amal, we have a dinner party for a new family. Can you come? I say, yes, I will. I call Annie. I say, Annie, can you go with me? She say, yes. I went there. It was a beautiful day because I saw many people, they speak same my language there. And the people from mosque, they ask us, what our dream? And they called my name. Amal, can you tell us what is your dream when you come here? I say, my dream, I work in a school, I will be a teacher. And I told myself inside, this is hard dream, Amal. This is not your country, not your language. And everyone clap hand, and they say, we hope. After a few months, my husband get a job, my kids, they go to school, and I have time. I call Annie. Annie, can you help me find a job? She say, yes, Amal. She find a job for me or restaurant. I work in restaurant. And same time, I find organization, the name SHC, this organization to help refugees to learn English. I study learn English with them. And same time, I work in restaurant. One day, when I study in this organization, someone volunteered there, her name, I remember her name, Heaven. She asked me, she say, Amal, I like to help you. Do you need to practice English with me? Do you need something else? I say, I have Annie. She come to my home. I practice with her English, but I need something else. She say, what you need? I told her, I work in a restaurant. My back get hurt. Can you find for me certificate online? I can work in the school. Online is easy for me. I can translate her in my phone to understand all the stuff. She say, okay, Amal, let me looking. She's looking in her computer. She say, Amal, I find preschool teacher assistant certificate online. Do you like it? I say, yes, this is exactly what I need. She say, okay, let me help you for register. She's helping me for register. And she say, okay, Amal, good luck. Study when you have time in your home. I say, okay. I wake up morning. Before I go to a restaurant to work, I study. And when I come from work, I study. Before I sleep, I study. At same time, I work in a restaurant. I study English with SHC. And I study in my home for this certificate. I work and I study very, very hard this time. After 3 months, when I'm study, night, when I finish questions, usually I say next for another questions. And they don't say next. They send to me a link with done. I say, what? Link with done? What does it mean? Let me call Heaven. Heaven. They sent to me a link with done. I don't know. I confused. Maybe I click the link. Maybe I do something wrong. She say, Amal, can you forward this email to me? I say, okay. I forwarded this email to her. She's called me back. She say, Amal, I will tell you tomorrow. Can I come tomorrow in your home? I say, Heaven, please tell me now what is happening. She say, tomorrow, Amal. Oh my gosh. Okay. I can't wait for tomorrow. Morning coming. She's knocked my door. She say, good morning. I say, good morning, good morning. What happened? She say, Amal, look. I say, what did she say? This is your certificate. I say, what? She say, the link, they sent it to you. This is your certificate, Amal. You're done. Now you have preschool teacher assistant certificate. I say, what? I jumped because I'm so happy. I did a small party in my home. I called my family. And this time I say, okay, Amal. Now you have to learn more English to will be ready when you work in the school with kids. I keep my certificate. I study English with SSC, this organization, and same time I work in a restaurant. One day, when I work in a restaurant, the teacher from the organization, SHC, she come to a restaurant to eat lunch. She saw me there. She said, Amal, I work here. I say, yes, I work here. She say, how are you? Everything okay? I say, yes, I have a good news. She say, what you have? I say, I have preschool teacher assistant certificate. She say, what? This is amazing, Amal. Good job. Amal, we teach women English. You can sit with the kids. Can you work with us? I say, oh, this is good. I will start. Yes, I will do that. And I work with organization. And same time, I work in restaurant. One day, when I work with the organization, my English get better. And one day, the people was Merit and Kate from SHC. They told me, Amal, your English get better. Can you help us for a translator for new people? They speak same like your language. I say, what? Translator? Zero English to translator? They say, yes, Amal, you can. I say, oh, okay, this is my phone number. I will do that volunteer. And I'm lucky, the same building was SHC, this organization. The down was Home Not Borders. I know Laura from them. I saw Laura. Laura, she's helped me for some stuff from my home to my home. And I say, okay, Laura, I'm here if you need volunteer for new people, if you have Arabic people. And I did volunteer for both organizations and working same time and restaurant same time. I work for both organization, volunteer, and work on restaurant. I was very busy this time. I get headache, I get confused, dizzy, but I say, okay, man, push yourself to learn. Until COVID coming. Close. Restaurant, close. SHC, close. I don't have a job this time. My husband lost his job too. I say, okay, Amal, I think you're ready to find another job. You work in the school. Now I have certificates, and my English gets better. Last I'm looking for another job. I'm looking on Google. I take my certificate to find different place to apply. Until one day, I know one volunteer from SHC. She's helped me before. She's helped me to learn my computer. Her name Anna. Anna, she say, Amal, I work in the preschool, nursery school in College Park. They looking for teacher assistants. Can you come? You can apply. Come work with us. I say, okay. I sent them my certificates, and they say, okay, Amal, we need to do an interview with you. But interview was in Zoom because it's COVID. When we did interview, we will tell you if we need you or no. I say, okay. What time the interview? They say, interview is 8 p.m. Okay, 8 p.m. Okay, 7:30 p.m. I told my kids, be quiet. No one play. No one open the TV. Be quiet. I have interview on Zoom and with the teacher with my dream job. And 8 o'clock, I open my Zoom. I have meeting with the interview with the teacher. They was very nice people, and I'm talking with them. They like me. They say, okay, Amal, welcome to work with us. You have exactly what we need. And I say, okay, what day I will start? They say, Tuesday, the first day, Tuesday, Amal. I say, okay, Tuesday. Tuesday coming, morning. I wake up morning, I drink black tea, Arabic tea, to I focus. And when I drink Arabic tea, and I take coffee too. Look, and also I take my certificate, I say, just in case if they ask me, and I went to there, like I walking like this, I'm a teacher, and I open the school door, and when they saw me there, the teachers and the kids, they say, hello, Miss Amal. And they say, good morning, Miss Amal. I say, okay, good morning, Miss Amal. And hello. Yes, my dream coming true. I am Miss Amal. Thank you.
Oh, man. We ready for a person who is not a storyteller tonight, but is the head of Homes Not Borders, Laura Usuri?
I'm just here, quickly, not to tell a story. I'm just here to thank you all for coming out tonight. Thanks for everybody who came here to support Homes Not Borders and support the refugees and forced migrants that we serve. During these unprecedented times when the federal government is callously shutting the door on all forced migrants, it's wonderful to see so many people, and all you amazing humans who want to support and welcome newcomers. It's the rich experiences of Amal. I loved her story. Amal's H&B is Homes Not Borders staff. She's the best, isn't she? And you'll hear from the other 5 storytellers as well. And their stories just make the country what it is today. But I also want to give special thanks to some other people, specifically our sponsors. You can see in the program, the Moth and Story District helped facilitate the storytelling workshops and mentorships, and National Community Church donated some money to help pay for those workshops as well. And we really appreciate them. All of them have been sponsors for our events for the past 4 years. And I also wanted to thank Imagination Stage, where we are today, with no hungry caterpillar, sadly, but for providing this fabulous venue at a very huge discount. We really appreciate it. And I also wanted to thank just the hardworking H&B staff for helping out in all aspects of this event. You saw them at the check-in tables, the bar, the auction items, helping with the artisan goods as well. And then, of course, Amy Huang Rona, our amazing development director, turned artistic director, woohoo! Who put many, many hours into this event, and it's amazing, and has pulled it off amazingly. I would also like to thank our wonderful host, Alexander Petra. Hello. And our volunteer videographers, Art Silverman and Peter Breslow, who you'll see around, and then our volunteer photographer, Lauren Peterson, as well. It's just it always amazes me and impresses me how talented our volunteers are and what talented volunteers we have. And finally, I wanted to thank our hardworking board. I think we have a few board members here. I can't see. Especially Jenny Klugman, who's not here. She rounded up many of the wonderful auction items out there that you see. Please, please, please bid on them. You have till the end of intermission. And then I also wanted to thank those who donated auction items, including Maya and Rob Hyman. I believe they're here, wherever you are. Thank you so much for donating your amazing house, and please bid on it. It looks awesome. I might bid on it if there's not any more bids. But please. And just thanks to everyone. Thanks for coming out once again. The energy and warmth in this room just gives me a little spark of hope for the future, and just hope for all newcomers that will one day, God willing, come to call this country home. Thank you.
Our next storyteller coming to the stage. Get excited. It's Izzatullah Ariel.
Hello. Like any other man in Afghanistan, I grew up with a heavy responsibility on my shoulder. In our community, men are expected to do more for their family and community. When I was 12 in Afghanistan, every morning I walked nearly 3 miles to my school. But first, I had to take my younger sister, which was along the way. I would drop her first and then continue to my own school. It was not an easy walk. Every day in the burning sun, in the cold winter, in the dry dust of autumn, we walk every day. But my little legs carry me forward. And every day we were just going in the same way. And for years, I dreamed of having a bicycle, which helped me to make this long journey easier. And then one day, my father promised me that if I do well in the school, I will get a bicycle. I try hard, I score well, and finally that day arrived, that I got a bicycle. I still remember a bicycle with a strong blue frame, a little horn that went ding, 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 a melody sweeter than a music. It was not a bicycle. It was not only a bicycle for me. It was more than a bicycle. It was freedom. It was joy. It was something that I care more than myself. I forgot to mention that bicycle also had a back seat where I carry my sister to the school. The memories of those rides are unforgettable for me. I was laughing with my sister in our silly jokes and listening to her little stories, and sometimes sharing the biscuit that she got in the school, which was given to the girls for motivating them to the education. Those were the happiest morning of my childhood. Of course, it wasn't always easy. One day, my sister's skirt got caught in the bicycle wheel, and we fell. She was lucky, but my face hit a stone on the ground, and I got injured. When my sister saw that the blood is dropping from my face, tears rolled down on her face from her little brown eyes, faster than my blood. And I got a scar in my face from that day. I still remember, that's the reminder of how painful but lovely moment those were. As I grow older, my father asked me to work with him and support the family. I love education more than money. So instead of joining him and working with him, I start a homeschool in a corner of our house. For the village kids, we had almost nothing. Just a white painted wall, a charcoal to write with, and a corner of our house that we turned into classroom. We just start a classroom to study there every day. I was studying, and I was supporting my sister to study, and the village children to study. And then this was the journey. And then spending some time like studying in the school and went in the same journey. Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. Okay. Okay, so I feel as an elder brother, I have 6 sisters. I was always responsible to my sister. And the happiest day for me was when my sister come running toward me and a paper in her hand, has her face giant with glow, and she is just repeating one word. In Pashto, she was telling, Zaparigaswan, which means I'm graduated. That was the day when she graduated from high school. That moment made me prouder than my own graduation day. That moment made me prouder than my own graduation day. Because we knew the struggle, the long walks, in the hot and cold weather. I still can feel the burning sun on my face and the sharp cold on my finger from those days. So I knew how we struggle and also the cultural barriers. So that paper in her hand means that our sacrifice had meaning. I continue supporting my family and continue my sister. And then until I become 24, I thought it's enough. But then I realized my responsibility is much more bigger than that. So I started a civil society organization in 2019 to support women, children, rights, and bring change in the society. First, it was only 10 of my friends that we joined and just start that civil society organization. But spending 2 years, those yet just growing up, and finally we reached 150 youth volunteers who were working for society, education, freedom of speech, and social change in the society, which we were becoming a symbol of hope. And then the hardest shifter of my life began when Taliban returned back to power. And suddenly, everything changed. People ran to any door that they could walk and save their life. I was one of them. I was forced to leave my country. And even harder and more painful than that was, I was looking in the media that Taliban closed the door for girls and women of the schools and universities. I still remember that hard day when my sister was calling with me in the video call, and she was crying and asked me, Izzat, what will happen to my future? I realized that voice is not only her voice, and that's the question maybe every sister and every woman asking from their family. And I didn't have any answer for her. The only thing I was just telling her to just have hope and wait. And that time never come till today. Still the door of the university and schools are closed for women. And my sister was in the 2nd year of university. But standing here and telling my story to you, I still believe that as a man, I have responsibility to support, help people who need me. I believe freedom of speech, education, and opportunity is not a small thing. They can change lives. They can make this world better. Even they change my life. As long as I live, I will always fight for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Izzatullah. Now, I have two kids, a boy and a girl, and I really hope that the boy becomes as good a brother as you are. Because, dang, that really, I'm at a loss for words. But hopefully not the loss for words is our next storyteller. We're counting on her to provide the words. Let's give it up for Sonia Weisberg.
I came to the United States on a refugee visa from the Soviet Union in 1990 when I was just 7 years old. When people say we lived behind an iron curtain, they really mean an iron curtain. Not only was there no internet in 1990, but there was absolutely no information flow from the west to the east. We had no idea where we were going or what we would find when we got there. We might have as well been moving to the moon. I showed up to Camp JCC in Indianapolis with my lunch in a white plastic bag, a cucumber, a drumstick, and a hard-boiled egg, while everyone else pulled out their Lunchables. You know that scene in My Big Fat Greek Wedding where she comes to school with her moussaka and all the other little girls pull out their white peanut butter and jelly perfectly cut sandwiches? I was her. I was that girl. There was no YouTube to teach me how to wear my colorful scrunchies, and no matter how much I might have wanted one, a Lisa Frank Trapper Keeper was just not in the cards. The local Jewish day school in Indianapolis gave free tuition to Soviet refugee children, so many of us went there. But Indiana is not very diverse. It's a really small school, and kids are mean. So for the 8 years that we were there, that I was there, it was the Russians and the Americans. We didn't hang out together, we didn't play together, and there were no intermingled sleepovers. All I wanted was just to stop being the weird kid and fit in. So I tried to wash the immigrant out of myself as quickly as possible. Luckily, my English lost its accent. My parents learned to buy Doritos and fruit roll-ups and order pizza. And by high school, I could fly under the radar pretty well. All my new friends in high school were American. All I wanted to be was as American as possible. And then, in college, I had the amazing opportunity to go on a 7-week service trip. We spent 4 weeks in Honduras working on a water system and 3 weeks in Kharkiv, Ukraine, tending to a cemetery in disrepair. Because thousands of Ukrainian Jews left the Soviet Union after it collapsed, or left Ukraine after the Soviet Union collapsed, there were not enough people left to tend to the cemeteries. We arrived to Kharkiv from Kiev by train late at night. In the morning, we woke up to a sunny, beautiful day, and the first thing I noticed were the poplar trees, and the birch trees, and the daisies on the side of the road. Even the pebbles looked familiar. I looked around at the Soviet-era buildings and the cars, and it hit me like a truck. I was home. The next 3 weeks would change my understanding of who I was fundamentally. I can't really explain it in words, but I was the only fluent Russian speaker in my group. And the deep bonds I formed with our Ukrainian Jewish peers cracked my heart open completely. Their incredible sincerity and their willingness to take me into their circle filled me with a deep nostalgia for the culture that we all shared. What's more, the streets of Kharkiv that I walked were the same streets my grandmother had walked when she was just 20 years old, studying in university just after the war. I sat on the same benches she sat on in Park Shevchenko. I even went to visit the old opera house, still standing, where she would skip meals to be able to afford the tickets to see the shows. Just being in Kharkiv, a place so deeply familiar because it was so similar to where I was born in Yekaterinburg, Russia, changed me completely. I no longer wanted to walk through the world as just an American. I had found the piece of myself I had worked so hard to erase. Today, I'm married to an immigrant. And, today I'm married to an immigrant. I feel most at ease in immigrant places and spaces. I cherish being able to speak another language, and being from a different country. But there was something else I learned in Ukraine in those 3 weeks. We would come to work in the cemetery every day, cutting down trees, wiping swastikas off, hauling debris and trash. And I realized something. Cemeteries are our roots. They are where our ancestors are buried. They are where our stories begin. I could not then, I cannot now, and I don't think I ever will be able to go back to where I was actually from in Yekaterinburg, Russia. I can never visit the graves of my ancestors. Forced migration took this away from me and severed my roots. Today, I still feel rootless, perhaps as many immigrants do. Thank you.
Sonia! I love the contrast between Lunchables, Lisa Frank, Trapper Keeper, Doritos, fruit roll-ups, and pizza being what defines America, and like the gorgeous pebbles and historical roots. I feel like Lunchables, really, the fight was stacked against Lunchables for once.
Welcome back to our show. I hope y'all had a drink, bid on some auction items, and bought every single one of Athir's cutting boards. Y'all should have seen his face when I told him he had to make 15 of them by tonight. But he did it, and I saw most of them gone, so yay y'all. If you can indulge me, I want to spend a few minutes talking about and telling a story about empathy and culture shock. Even though people are really happy to be here in the United States and safe, there's a lot of culture shock. I mean, everything is new, and imagine that. And I so appreciate y'all because you're here because you empathize and stand with refugees. And I gotta say, I don't really understand what it's like to be dropped into a new culture until recently, because I'm American. Right, I was born in Vietnam, but I don't remember it. I was a baby when I came here, and I've never lived anywhere but America. So I know instinctively on the escalator, you stand to the right and walk to the left. I'm not shocked when I see women with their hair uncovered. And I love root beer, like most Americans, because all you non-Americans seem to hate it. I don't know why. And I've always wondered what it was like to feel that discomfort and sometimes embarrassment and shock of being in another culture. But I'll tell you, I don't have to wonder anymore because last April, my friend Lisa turned 60 and she wanted to celebrate her Korean American heritage by bringing us friends to a naked Korean spa. Yes, she wanted us to go to Spa World. And let me tell you, my cultures are America, Vietnam, and Texas. And in none of these cultures do we walk around naked in front of dozens of other people lounging around in a hot tub and getting beauty treatments. And some of you might say, I know, I'm American and I grew up in a naked family. And I'm like, but I didn't. So this made me extremely uncomfortable. And I'll tell you something about Lisa, she's very persistent. And she was working on us for almost a year. And I was like, Lisa, there are so many wonderful things about Korean culture that we can do. Like, they have beautiful makeup products. Let's go to Sephora together. And she's like, no. And then months go by, and she's like, let's go to Spa World, let's go to Spa World. And I was like, how about Korean barbecue? So delicious. And she's like, no. And then finally, in my head, I was like, dang it, I will buy 5 tickets to BTS myself, because we can celebrate K-pop. And she's just like, no, it's my 60th birthday, I want to go to Spa World. So I went because A, you don't say no to Lisa, and 2, because I'm a people pleaser at heart, and I can't say no. So here we were in the line to go into Spa World, and my shoulders were hunched, and there was a sheen of sweat on me, and there's like this line that comes right here when I'm really nervous. And I was thinking, I mean, I like these ladies, but there are so many people I really love who I've never seen naked, and I never want to see naked. I can tell you who they are. My father, my brother, all my in-laws. And I looked so worried that this kindly older woman with gray dreads took me by the arm and said, honey, it is going to be okay. So, I had some contingency plans here. I was not going to get naked in front of these people. My first contingency plan was to wear a swimsuit. But then we walked into the locker room, and my friends were just like dropping bras and panties like it was nothing. And I was reaching for my swimsuit, and I noticed dozens and dozens of women. And thank God it's a sex-segregated spa, so I would not be able to handle the alternative. And I realized that I can't wear my swimsuit because that would make me stand out more than all the naked people. So my second contingency plan was to wrap myself in a towel. But what you all should know if you ever want to go to Spa World is that they only give you hand towels. And you better pray that you're as short-waisted as me, because those hand towels go from here to here. And, I'm undressing, and I'm doing it, and it's fine, and I'm looking around. There's a lot of breasts in my line of vision. And suddenly I noticed that, my friend Shannon is just casually, nakedly talking about the cafeteria downstairs, saying, oh, I don't know, I think the French fries are really good here. And then my friend Julia is casually, nakedly talking about her kid's sports game. And I was like, whoa, okay, no one's making a big deal out of this except for me. And I got to get over my culture shock. So, audience, I dropped my drawers. And after a couple of minutes, I actually started exploring and having fun. And I know that being a refugee, you're not always going to have fun. And honestly, most of it is not fun. It's really hard. But what I want and what I hope for our refugee population who's here is a spirit of exploration and the ability to drop their proverbial drawers and be able to enjoy our culture. And so I got to say, the empathy part, thank you guys for empathizing and being able to get into your heads of all of these storytellers here, because I know it's a stretch, right, to imagine yourself in their shoes, and I so appreciate it. So thank you.
Are you ready for another half of the show? We have Farishta Afzali.
I still remember the tall girl with long braided hair back in Quetta, Pakistan, on the streets and roads riding bicycle. When I first saw her, it was my dream as well to learn how to ride bicycle. On the side note, at that time, we also, a few years ago, like when the Taliban first came to power, we moved from Kabul to Quetta for safety and better life. So when I saw this girl every time on the streets and roads, I always wanted to learn cycling. But of course, I never wanted to share it with my family because back then it was not normal for girls to ride bicycle. And I never wanted to share it. So moving forward, years goes by, and in 2013, I started my bachelor's degree. I went to Bangladesh, and my sister also was studying there. So one day, in the lane of my university, I see a bunch of cycles over there, and I'm so happy to see these cycles because, of course, I want to learn cycling. And the other day, I see my sister, my elder sister, who happens to be here as well, Hakima. I see her riding bicycle, and I'm so happy and surprised as well. And I asked her, how did you know how to ride bicycle? And she's like, I learned it here. So that motivated me, and I asked for her help to teach me. So for a few days, she helped me. And there is one day I go to her, and I say, Hakima, just help me to learn cycling. And she's like, no, I'm not going to help you, Farishta. You get to move on. You're just going to do it yourself. That's how you're going to learn. Of course, I'm not going to ask her again. And then I intentionally chose the evening because at that time it was quieter. Students were not in the lane of the university. So even if I fell down, who cares, right? Because I wanted to learn cycling. So at that time, for a week, I continuously ride bicycle. Finally, after 1 week, I learned it. And then one day, I go outside the university lane, and there is a basketball court. I'm just so happy and proud and just so free. I'm enjoying, and I'm so joyful. Then there is one day I come across an opportunity. It's Bangladesh Discovery Ride, and it's 220 kilometers ride. And I'm going to tell myself, Farishta, you just learned cycling. How are you going to be part of it? And of course, I'm so much enthusiastic. I'm like, no matter what, I'm going to be part of this cycling ride. I'm submitting all my assignments, not thinking about it for the second time. I'm all set and ready for this ride. So I joined this cycling ride. We are 80 cyclists, both national and international, and we go to world's longest sea beach in Bangladesh, which is Cox's Bazar. It's 3 beautiful days of cycling, sharing stories, laughter, food. And when I go and I start this journey, I definitely see people cheering for us, and beautiful trees on both the sides. The sky is blue, and this just beautiful weather. And we promoted cycling for girls. We promoted cleanliness. It was just a beautiful journey, which I will always remember. Then years goes by. I graduate from my university, and this time I come back, not to Quetta, but Kabul, to my own country. And at that time, my parents had already shifted from Quetta to Kabul. And after a few years, COVID hit. And at that time, I was also part of initiative or a foundation, and we were providing computer classes and English classes to the underprivileged communities. So I was just a volunteer, and some of the members, we initiated this cycling, and it was obviously for fun. To our surprise, the group just grew to hundreds of girls and boys, and we would just wake up on every weekend so early in the morning that everyone else would sleep, we're sleeping, but we were so joyful and we were just so happy, riding on the bicycle, paddling, just sharing the laughter, stories. It was just so amazing. And my other sister, Mariam, who is also here, she would also join me in those kind of rides. And then one day, I'm like, let me just share this dream of having a cycle with my father, because I never told him, right? So I go to my father, and I'm like, now I want to have a bicycle. Now that you know I'm part of this group of cyclists, like many girls and boys, so now I want to have my own cycle. And my father is like, let's just go. And we took 3 days to just look for a good bicycle. And I still remember that in those kind of locations, especially those markets, you could only see men and boys. And I'm sure when they saw me with my father, they must be like, how on earth this father with the adult girl is here and looking for a bicycle? Of course, nothing else mattered for my father, because all he wanted was getting me a good bicycle. And then He just gives me this beautiful pink cycle, and he's like, Farishta, this is a gift from me, just ride it. And the next day, very early in the morning, he wakes me up and he wants me to join him for riding bicycle. We wake up, we prepare food, we are going to a beautiful shrine. This was called Sakhijan, and we would just go and just ride in beautiful streets of Kabul on the roads. And especially while we were coming back, it was a lot of people on the streets, so they would give us different kinds of comments. Like, there were people giving us really bad comments. There were people really happy for us, and there were people just cheering for us. And I think especially with the negative comments coming from that community, from Afghanistan, where mainly girls and women are not even expected to be on the bicycles. So my father never wanted to encounter those people, because all that mattered for him was the joy that I was having with him while I was riding bicycle. So I just want to say that my father is not only my support system, but he is my hero. And if every girl has their father's back, no any power can stop them from achieving their dreams. By the way, just to let you know, I do have a cycle here as well, and whenever I have time, I go for a riding bicycle with my sisters, who are also happen to be here. Thanks to Hakima for pushing me to learn how to ride cycling, and thanks to Mariam for being my buddy in Kabul and riding bicycle. Thank you so much.
Well, now, moving from bicycles on to a story that does not involve bicycles. It's this kind of transition that they pay for me to do as a published writer. Now, watch, the story involved bicycles, but when I heard it, it did not involve bicycles to my knowledge. So, without further ado, please welcome Maria Karzan.
In February of 1980, when I was 13 years old, my world was turned upside down. We had to leave our home in the middle of the night because our life was in danger. My mother's job moved us to the United States, and we settled in California. I started middle school and ESL classes, but I remember one day walking to one of my classes, and this boy came up to me and punched me in the stomach and said, "Go back to Mexico." I said to myself, I was in shock, but then I thought, but I'm not from Mexico. I didn't know at that time why he said those things and why he seemed so angry. Within the year, thank God, I was out of middle school, and I was out of ESL, but I wasn't proficient enough to move on to the next level, which was high school. And my first two classes were particularly difficult for me. My first class was English, reading, and every time I had to stand up in front of the class to read, the kids would taunt me. They would say, "What are you saying?" and laugh. My second period wasn't any better. So I decided not to go to those two classes, and I would show up at third period. I would write notes that excused my being late. I would say I was sick, I had a doctor's appointment. Well, one day, I get called to the principal's office, and to my surprise, my mother was sitting there. The principal looked at me and said, "Now, I'm 40 years old, and I never seen somebody as sick as you." He then turned to my mother and said, "Mrs. Evans, did you sign these notes?" And inside I was like, "Oh, please save me." But my mom said, "No, I never seen those. I knew I was going to get it when I got home." So I got sent to Saturday detention for a few weeks, which meant I had to go clean the school and pick up trash from the football fields with the other delinquents. So then, later on, I went to see my counselor, guidance counselor, and I told him that I wanted to go to college. He looked at me straight at my face and said, "You're not going to college." So I did finish high school. I graduated. I went to college, community college, but I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I had no support. So I dropped out. I needed to move on. At the time, my sister was in the Air Force, and they gave her orders to come to Washington, D.C. So I thought, I'm going to come with her, even though I was very scared, and I needed to spread my wings and start my life. My sister drove us across country in her little Honda del Sol two-seater convertible with the top down most of the time in a very hot summer. And I didn't know how to drive stick shift, and I did try, but the car kept going like this, so she said, never mind, I'll do it. And we managed to cross the country to the East Coast without killing each other. Once we moved here, I settled, and I went back to school and got a job. In the mid-90s, the Indo-Chinese Community Center got a grant from the Office of Refugee Resettlement to give services to the newest or latest wave of Vietnamese refugees that were coming to the DC area, Mount Pleasant neighborhood. A coworker asked me if I would like to volunteer helping refugee children, teaching them English. And I didn't think twice. I said, yes, I want to do it. And I went to the recruiting meeting, and I guess I passed. So I got to volunteer for that whole summer. When the summer ended, Sandy, the director, wanted me to stay on as a part-time employee. And I was teaching English as a second language to kids after-school program. The next summer came along, and we were teaching out of the old Lincoln Middle School, which was in Mount Pleasant. This school was pretty old. It had no air conditioner. My classroom was long, and I remember having panel windows on this big blue wall, and in each corner there was long closets with double doors. One day, it was particularly hot, and it was muggy. I wasn't feeling very well about myself. I was bummed. When I show up to my classroom, there was no one there. And I thought, great, that's all I need. The kids don't want to be here. As I looked down to the floor, disappointed, the closet doors flew open, and I hear the kids yell, surprise! And they all come running towards me to hug me. They almost toppled me to the floor. It was like the most amazing feeling. I knew I fell in love with those kids at that time. I went on to stay with the organization for a few years. I immersed myself in their culture. I celebrated holidays, Lunar New Year's. I spent my Saturdays with other volunteers. We took the kids out to museums and field trips and had a lot of fun. I even had a dance troupe where I prepared kids to perform cultural dances at different events. Always, when it was time for my then boyfriend, now husband, and I to take them home, they would argue of who will get dropped off last or first. So Song Lu was always upset because he always got dropped off first. Well, in order for us to provide better services to the youth, we became our own organization, Asian American Lead, Leadership, Empowerment, and Development for Youth and Families. I was the first full-time staff, and at one point, I was the only non-Vietnamese staff. But I never felt like I always felt welcome. I never felt like I didn't belong. They were my family, my tribe. I belonged. The time I spent with Asian American Lead. I got to witness many youth get the support and mentoring that they needed from mentors and staff. A lot of them went to excellent universities, and they live successful lives. I have been able to go to some of those kids' weddings. I have met their babies, and I still see them from time to time. That makes me very happy. But most of all, I am grateful that Sandy believed in me and welcomed me into her tribe. And this was the place I wish I had when I came to this country. Thank you.
I can't believe we're almost at the end of our evening together, but we do have one final story. So please get excited. Last but not least, put your hands together for Story Manandoy.
I left Afghanistan on August 21st, 2021 at 11 p.m. after receiving a call to come to the airport within 2 hours. It was a chaos. I was wondering how to share that news with my parents. And I was thinking, if I leave, who will support them? And who will take care of them as they grow older? And I was thinking, if I stay, will I still have the chance to work and provide for them? I had to make a quick decision. I had only 2 hours. I walked to my parents. They were watching the news, and they were saying that the Taliban started searching houses, and they're looking for military members, educators, and social activists. My fear grew, and I shared the call details with my parents. Silence filled the room. My dad gave me a small nod. My mom didn't say much. She simply removed her ring, the one that she had it for 55 years, and she handed it to me and told me, sell it whenever you need it. The sadness was too heavy to bear. I couldn't see in their eyes. I turned away, grabbed my backpack, and walked out to a night darker and quieter than any other night. On the way to the airport, I was thinking with myself, when my whole body plus my face was covered and it made breathing hard for me. I was saying, okay, I'm leaving, but what about all other girls who are staying in this country? How much longer will they breathe with covered face? Those thoughts and those dark and quiet nights took me to a morning where I found myself in Abu Dhabi's refugee camp. I spent 14 months of my life in a camp covered entirely with white. White wall, white bed. Even the food was coming in white containers. And we were not allowed to go out to feel the sun or take some fresh air. And every morning, a new rumor. Australians are taking the refugees out. No, it's the European. No, the US will take the refugees out. But nobody knew what their final destination would be. One morning, surprisingly, I received an email saying that the wait is over and soon I'm going to receive my tickets for the United States. Wow. I was excited and made a long trip from Abu Dhabi to Qatar, from the Qatar to Dallas airport. One of the refugee agencies took me from the airport and dropped me at my relative's house. And they clearly told me that their priority is family and children. As an individual, I have to find my own way. Wow, that was not what I expected. Well, I was tired and exhausted and slept till midday. When I woke up, I walked to the balcony. Outside was beautiful. The blue sky, the tall plane trees. I felt the sun on my shoulders and the wind in my hair, and I cried. I cried for being strong all this time in Abu Dhabi camp. I cried for being away from my family and friends, and I cried for having an uncertain future. Well, I walked back inside and I cried myself to sleep. When I woke up, I felt emptiness. and I thought something is missing. And since I was depressed, I took a Zoloft. I'm a Zoloft girl. Well, yeah, I know some of you are. So, well, I was thinking that, okay, this is a new country, and you have to establish yourself. How can you do it? I contact my only friend, Sylvia, who lives in Boston, and I know her through my sister. Sylvia knew me so well. She knew I went through a lot since leaving Afghanistan. She helped me to join a local gym. She introduced me to her friends to help me with my resume and creating a LinkedIn account. She also introduced me to one of her friends who had extra space in their basement in DC. And soon, I moved to my new space. My new American family welcomed me with open arms. They introduced me to the neighborhood, and for the first night, they ordered some Afghan food that I still remember the smell and the first bite. Guess what? They took me to Super Walmart. Oh my God, that was really huge. You could find 10 types of milk, where back home you can only see one type. Or you can see 10 types of cheese that I still cannot pronounce the name. I started cooking for myself. It never came like my mom's food, but each time when I was cooking, I was tapping my shoulder and I was saying to myself, girl, you become such a good cook. As my life was getting busy in DC, but I still was in touch with my family and friends in Afghanistan. And each call broke my heart. They were crying, there is no education, there is no job, and there's no future. I was sad for those girls, but I was mad at the Taliban for snatching their freedom. Well, today I'm approaching to my third year here. I'm having my own car, I'm having a library card, I'm having a voice and a mission. But when I look back to those girls back home in the country, they lost everything, including their voices and their silence. And I knew that as an educator, I cannot stay silent. One day, I called my friend and I said, hey, we have to do something. I cannot stay quiet anymore. And that call ended with a decision to run an online school for girls in Afghanistan and name it Zama Sabah, which means my future. Well, I still remember the night that I left Afghanistan. The silence of the room, the sadness in my dad's eyes, and my mom's unforgettable sentence, sell it if you need it. I never sold it. I carry it with me wherever I go. It's big, it has a tip on it. I will never make it smaller, but I will keep it as a symbol of why I left. For freedom, for education, and for being the one who brings change in Afghan girls' community. Thank you.
I love the vividness of your descriptions of the air and of the Super Walmart. Now, oh, sorry.
Sorry. We did not practice this transition enough. So I have written remarks here, but just like, this is not here, and so I'm just speaking off the cuff here, but like, it's amazing to see all these people here that support Homes Not Borders, and it just makes me think back to like, all, you know, the storytellers talking about their kind of origin stories and stuff, and just the origin story of Homes Not Borders, and where we began in 2017. I mean, there's a few people, Nick, our director of operations up there. Hey, Nick. Nick gets clapped. We got a fan over here, Nick. Nick was there. Lauren, who was our photographer, was there. There's a few people that the OG H&B team here. But I just remember the first time we went, I think it was with ECDC. And for all who don't know, Homes Not Borders started as a mission through National Community Church, and it was just a bunch of like volunteers saying, hey, how can we help the resettlement agencies with helping, it was then Syrians, but then quickly got shut down, and now we're back in the same cycle again, but I digress. And so we wanted to know how we could help. They said with home setups, and we went on the first kind of home set up with them, and it was so sad. The apartment was like just a couch, like this room, the standard issue kind of futon-y couch, and a sad little lamp, and a table and 4 chairs that everybody, even if you had 11 people in your family, would get the same table, and just beds and nothing else. And it was so sad. And all of us volunteers are like, we can do better. We can make this look beautiful and make it be welcoming, and help these newcomers feel welcome. And that's kind of where we began. And back then, it's we didn't envision this, right, Nick? We didn't think this was going to be happening. I guess, yeah. 2017, yeah, 8 years from now, 8 years from then. So it's just amazing to see how it's grown and shifted, and how many of you have been along for this journey for many years. Some started supporting us recently. But I think the kind of, the ethos of Homes Not Borders is just, we can do better. We can welcome, we can show newcomers that they are appreciated and that they're loved, and we can help them thrive by selling their artisan goods, or helping them tell their story, or giving them assistance. And we just try to pivot as much as we can. And now we're in another pivot moment. There's less home setups, as many of you know. We've started our mentoring program, which has been going great, helping just build community with the refugees and newcomers that are here. And so yeah, that's what we're working on now. We might be pivoting towards food assistance, honestly, because there's new needs every day for the immigrant and refugee community in this environment. So all that is to say is there's a lot of work we need to do. So this is a fundraiser. So I'm going to just put it out there that we need money. We need money to run a nonprofit. It does not. We need to pay staff. They do amazing work. They help with the programs. They help meet the needs of the clients. They help bring in volunteers. They help spread the word. They help find outings for the mentorship, or places to speak for the storytellers. And then, we have overhead, we have our truck, we have to buy beds with the SIVs that are still arriving. So there's just a lot of money that goes into running a nonprofit, and we are so, so grateful that many of you have donated year after year after year. So thank you so much, but this is a fundraiser, so if you want to get out your phone and scan the QR code on the program, we really appreciate it. Or if you want to go to our website and see how you can donate via check or DAF, or the CFC, at least for this year, we saw that might go away as well, or World Bank Community Connections, you can donate that way. So just thank you all so much for helping to support Homes Not Borders and all the refugees and newcomers we serve, and just these wonderful storytellers. You guys were amazing. All your stories it's amazing. Give a round of applause once again. And if you haven't bought any artisan goods, they're still out there. And I'd like to point out that Athir, who we've been talking up a lot, who works for Homes Not Borders, is also Amal's husband. So you're supporting the storytellers as well by buying cutting boards. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you again for spending this evening with us. This was such a great way to spend a Friday night. I assume it's Friday night. I'm lost in space and time. And I thought it would be fun to conclude with a tradition from The Moth, where you take a little bit of everybody's story and just remember what you heard. And so here are the first lines from all the stories that Amy collected, and I thought we could listen to them again and remember what we heard. So Mal said, "I came from Iraq to the US in 2016. I was 35 years old, and I'd spent the entire 35 years on the inside." Izatullah wrote, "Like every man in Afghanistan, I grew up with heavy responsibilities." Sonia said, "I moved to the US on a refugee visa from the Soviet Union in 1990. Farishta said, "I still remember the long-haired girl in Pakistan riding a bicycle." Maria said, "On February 2nd, 1980, when I was 13 years old, my mother's employers took us out of El Salvador because of the erupting civil war." And Starai said, "I left Afghanistan on August 21st, 2021 at 11 p.m. after getting a call to go to the airport, and it was chaos." I feel like we've all been on a journey together, and I was really struck by the words that we just heard, which were, we can do better, we can make this beautiful, we can make it be welcoming. So let's all go out and do that, and thank you again for spending Friday night with us.